Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item 9A, Audit Committee recommendation, Annual Audit Committee report. Agenda
Thank you,
item.
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At its meeting on the 16th of September, the Audit Committee considered its annual report outlining the work and items considered by the committee in 2019-20. I would like to take the opportunity to thank members of the committee last year for their work and input. The report in front of members this evening shows key information relating to the committee, its achievements during the year, and key targets going forward. It will be imperative that the committee continues to effectively scrutinise the governance in place across the council as we continue to work against the backdrop of COVID-19. The report is presented to council to raise the awareness of the work of the committee in scrutinising and challenging the processes in place to govern the organisation. As the year progresses, I look forward to the committee enhancing their skills and knowledge through training and working closely with officers to improve the standards of audit, ensuring the council's audit functions are fit for purpose and that no stone is left unturned. I hope the committee will continue to be effective in these challenging times. I therefore recommend that the council notes the work undertaken by the audit committee in improving governance arrangements across the council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bashir, will you second the recommendation and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in the debate?
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to second that, and I reserve my right to speak at the moment.
Thank you. Can I call upon any speakers? No? Thank you. Councillor Bashir, would you like to exercise your right to speak?
I don't wish to say anything.
Thank you. Councillor Over, would you like to sum up?
Councillor Over, you're on mute, I'm afraid.
I think because the meeting is getting on in time, I don't really need to say anything. Everything in the report is there. And just to thank everybody involved, committee and officers, for all their help in the previous year.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll now move to the recommendation. Are members in objection to this proposal? If you are, could you please raise your virtual hand? There are no objections. Thank you. This is therefore agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Agenda item 9B, Cabinet recommendation, University of Peterborough, project land transfer and delivery arrangement. Agenda item 9B is in relation to the University of Peterborough project. Council holders, I understand that you are happy to accept the amendment from Councillor Sanford. Information on this can be found in the additional information pack. Rachel will now open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Hiller, would you like to move the recommendations as amended?
Yes, I would, thank you. Whilst this item involves probably both mine and Councillor Ayer's portfolios, it's peculiar to the transfer of the land to the university into the JV, so it's not about the university itself. I'm sure members will understand, but so I'm happy to introduce it. To be clear, I hope council members will appreciate that this was a significant item at Cabinet and was submitted for approval following the appointment of Anglia Ruskin University as academic partner to the University of Peterborough project, and following the approval of the final business case for phase 1 of the new university by the Combined Authority Board at its meeting on the 20th of July. The report informed Cabinet of the proposed changes to the planning and implementation of the University of Peterborough project, including the arrangements for the proposed transfer of council-owned land into the special purpose joint venture JV to develop the new campus and the associated issues of the council's shareholding, board membership and voting rights. The JV is a company limited by shares and managed by a board of directors. The combined authority and Anglia Ruskin will subscribe for shares in the company by making a financial investment, and the council will do similarly by the market value of its land transfer. These investments will provide the necessary funding, Mr. Mayor. Cabinet members approved a number of recommendations and enabled the council to work with other parties through the JV to allow the university delivery programme to progress expediently and efficiently towards the common objectives and timescales. I did say at the time, Mr. Mayor, that this approval marked the end of the beginning of our journey to making our university a reality for the residents of this city and for the benefit of generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch, will you second the recommendation and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in debate?
Yes, I'm more than happy to second it and be welcome to speak later.
Thank you. Can I call upon any speakers, please? Councillor Sanford.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to speak on the amendment that I put forward. I'm actually very grateful to Councillor Hiller and Councillor Holditch for agreeing to accept it. I just wanted to make a few brief remarks because I think I've always supported and I continue to support the City of Peterborough having a university. It's often been said it could be the key to unlocking many of the improvements in the skill levels of our workforce, in the availability of culture and recreational and sporting facilities that all of us want to see. But I think there is a genuine concern that what we're seeing, or what we could see over quite a considerable period of time, is encroachment into the green space on the embankment. So I actually do think that having a master plan, which we're told is being drawn up at the moment by consultants, and having that master plan put out to public consultation so that members of the public can put their comments forward is actually really important. The importance of the embankment green space is actually stated in the Peterborough local plan at policy LP30, where it says that this land must be safeguarded and should not be lost to development. Now, obviously, that the council can decide to go against what's in its local plan, but there is a presumption that any planning application that is contrary to the local plan will be refused unless really powerful arguments can be put forward to the contrary. So I think the concern is that not that we're going to lose all of the embankment green space. I'm sure Councillor Holditch and his colleagues wouldn't want that to happen, but that it gets chipped away gradually. So I think we need to see the master plan. Interestingly, the original version of this amendment that I put forward says that the master plan should come to the council to be approved, but I was advised by planning officers that we can't do that because a master plan that proposed significant development on the embankment would be contrary to the local plan, and the council can't have planning policies which are contradictory. So I am pleased that it looks as though this amendment is going to be accepted, and I certainly look forward to seeing the master plan, as I'm sure lots of other people do, and being able to put forward comments on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ash.
Yeah, thank you. I've got to say really that I think Councillor Sanford covered just about everything I wanted to say. I think it is quite possible and highly likely with this and talk of posh moving in that general area that the embankment will be eaten away and we will lose a valuable green space. So there's always been talk of having a good water feature in the city, and here we are with one that nature has provided. And I think we need to look after that to make sure that it is a valuable green open space for everyone to be able to use casually rather than formal use. Right? So I think it's very important that we do make sure that we don't eat into the green space on the embankment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hogg?
Yeah, I just want to, I suppose, really echo some of the thoughts of Councillor Sanford. On the one hand, I'm more than happy with the phase one aspects of the university, because essentially it occupies land that was previously the old Warina centre, and so it's basically a brownfield site. But I note that further plans tend to take that site into our beloved embankment area, and alongside other issues that are other projects that may be coming forward in terms of the moving of the People United ground. I think that essentially the amount of the embankment is going to be completely taken over, and I want to see a proper debate around what is actually going to happen with this land. It does look to me as though the embankment is going to be kind of half of the space is going to be taken up, and that's just with the stadium itself. That with any stadium you're going to have ancillary kind of car parking and concrete areas around the periphery. So it just does look to me that we do need to have a proper debate and a proper engagement with the public about what is going to happen with the embankment area.
Thank you. Councillor Jamil, please.
Thank you very much. I think my point is also being echoed by the speakers before me. As a Central Ward councillor, this is one of the few green open spaces we have within the ward. I'd like, when we do this, to have a proper plan as to where we go with this, because if we put the football stadium there, phase 2, 3, 4 of the university, I don't want to lose that green open space. That people who use the river, people who do it, and then you've got the other side of the river where we're building as well. So I just think that, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it in a way where we maintain the majority of the embankment, and for the university to do their bit and for people to enjoy as well. So please, let's do this in conjunction and consult on this properly.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shaz-Nawaz, please.
Thank you, Rachel and Mr. Mayor. Without repeating the previous points, my real issue here is that we were told Anglia Ruskin were a short-term partner, and we're now entering into a JV agreement, issuing shares. There's 3 partners. It could be 1/3 each, or it could be a different balance. But we're putting in real estate into this particular deal, and other parties like Anglia Ruskin are going to have a stake in that joint venture partnership. Is that a short-term joint venture partnership, or will Anglia Ruskin continue to be a partner in this particular venture after we have our independent degree awarding powers? Because if we do, then it can't really be a joint venture. Then it's a long-term partnership or a shareholding, or call it what you like. And if we don't, then how are we then going to buy out Anglia Ruskin University from this particular partnership if they've got a financial interest? So that's something that perhaps can't be answered here today, but I'd like the administration to be mindful of that and perhaps address that at some point.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Coles.
Thank you. I'm very interested in the developments that are proposed, and I think one risk is looking at the high-level reports and the potential designs on the site may not actually give us a true view about how much green space is going to be preserved. I'm more concerned about how we maintain the green lung or the green passageway right the way through the city from east to west. I'm also, of course, interested in what will happen to the regional pool, because there's also plans there for that to be moved, and the impacts of other current university buildings in my own ward, and the effect of the move of the football stadium. All of these issues, while seemingly disparate, are all actually connected. I think what we need to see is that the green space that we enjoy along the river is preserved for everyone to use, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that the development of the university, which is of extreme importance to the continued viability of the city, should also have its position, should have its place in the plans that are going forward. If we don't have a chance to discuss these in the round, I think we're going to miss out on developing a modern city that we all want to see. So I, for one, would very much support this idea of Councillor Sanders. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Seaton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought this was a debate about the university land transfer. And, you know, Councillor Holditch has accepted the amendment that the embankment plan should be looked at as part of that. And we appear to be having a debate about losing land on the embankment that's used for the, you know, the beer festival and other things. And I don't think there's any sense that that's going to happen. We all value the embankment. You know, I'm not aware of any plans that the university, which this debate is about, is going to encroach on that land, which people have started raising the posh ground. That's not part of this debate. So we've talked today about the length of these meetings. We talked about making political points, and it just feels like that's what people are doing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Holditch, do you wish to speak, or are you exercising your right?
I was just going to say that a lot of the questions that Councillor Shaznu has put up, I will answer in my reply at the end.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Farouk, please.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The word game changer is very rarely used, but I'll use that today. That's for the city. This is a major game changer for the city. It will uplift the skill set of our residents. It'll attract more industry. And most importantly, our council will have shares in the organisation. Not to mention other projects such as Westgate, Northminster, Flatton Quays. And as few of the other councillors mentioned about green area, we are not to forget that the land in embankment is around 63 acres. And these projects will take only small proportion of that and will still have large amount of green areas around that space. Councillor Shaz Nawaz mentioned about shares. Shares of this organisation are directly proportional to the investment made by the stakeholders. So the large amount of investment made by the CPA and Anglia Ruskin University reflect those shares in that organisation. And for that, I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wiggin, please.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to raise a couple of points from the last two speakers. I appreciate what Councillor Farouk has said. He makes a point of how important this is to us. But I wanted to go back on the point from Councillor Seaton. He seems to not understand where we're coming from in terms of being concerned with this item. The problem and the reason we put the amendment in was the way we read it was that it effectively gave officers a free ride to transfer any land as required without the scrutiny of the council, and without a plan for that to go with. Who
Point
knows?
of personal information, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Seaton.
Thank you. I specifically said we had accepted Councillor Sanford's amendment. Councillor Holditch had accepted Councillor Sanford's amendment. And Councillor Wiggins seems to be ignoring that in his comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wiggin, do you wish to continue?
Yes, thank you. If I could actually get to the point I was trying to make, that we know we need the university, we know the football club needs to move to fulfil its potential, but we can't be giving a green light to just transfer our valuable green space without knowing the full version of what is proposed. That's why we need a master plan before we can agree to anything else. And I look forward to seeing that and having a proper debate on it. And hopefully Councillor Holditch can reassure us when we're going to see that, because that will allay all of these fears about what's going to happen to the land when there's a plan. So please, can we have the plan?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fitzgerald, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a very important time for our city, and Councillor Seaton rightly points out what we're discussing today is about one particular aspect of the wider vision for the embankment, which, and quite rightly, people, councillors, members of the public should have their view on what happens. But look, let's be clear about what we're dealing with here. We're not dealing with some outstanding area of natural beauty, but I'd like to make it one personally. That site is not in great use, the whole embankment I'm talking about, and I'm not for 1 minute suggesting we should build over it. I'm saying what we should have is sympathetic development, incorporating green open spaces, natural wildlife and habitat, a development of the riverbank, making it more attractive and a pleasant place to be. We will build that bridge if we get the funding, and I believe a bid is in for that. Because what we should be doing is looking to the future, not only in the university aspects and the use of the land there, but also there's talk about moving Peterborough United as a stadium. But those eagle-eyed amongst you will also know it's not just going to be a football stadium. It talks about a multi-purpose, multi-use facility with concerts. So we already have concerts now on the embankment and other things, but this would give us a proper footing in terms of being able to put these things on professionally in comfort without having to wade through mud and all sorts of other problems due to inclement weather. So that's got to be welcome. But again, I would stress, we've got to do it sympathetically. We don't want to cut all the green space out of the city centre, although we're blessed in Peterborough with so much green space. You know, if we do develop the site as a whole with a master plan, and I'm all for that, you know, let's make it work for the benefit of residents, because at the moment, folks, again, it doesn't look great. The riverfront is underused. Let's get some more development along there where people can spend time with their families, leisure time. And as to, you know, we're talking about, I think somebody mentioned about the future of the university. The plan has been clearly laid out in the short to medium term. I'm sure Councillor Holditch will pick it up. But we haven't got a crystal ball, you know. How far do we plan? We've got a plan for the next 10 years, I believe, about an agreed partnership with the Combined Authority and Anglia Ruskin and ourselves, and we should be moving forward positively, which is what this decision is about tonight. But that's just really setting the scene for some of the members that we should think positively about it. And again, I'll reiterate for Councillor Wiggins' sake and the Liberal Democrats, we want to hear people's views about what they want to see on there. Everything that has been talked about in the press is speculation until planning applications are in. So there is planning for this, and we're transferring the land. That's where we're going. It's not been a secret. So let's move on with this particular decision and go forwards positively and build Peterborough into a place where people are proud to go to its university. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I have no more speakers. Councillor Holditch, would you like to exercise your right to speak?
Thank you. Yes, there's now a queer as folks because these plans and speculation on the embankment have been around for probably now 12 months, and I've had 6 emails, 5 to ask me where the beer festival was going and 1 to ask me where the fair was going. But I would say I've accepted this amendment because it doesn't affect the current proposal for the university. It does affect if when a plan comes out that we will discuss what goes on the embankment. The university campus will be open to the public, so all the green space and the landscaping people will be able to, the general public will be able to avail themselves of. In answer to Councillor Shaz Nawaz, there's an agreement in 2028 where we will look at our own university and our own powers. And that's in the agreement. There's also in the agreement that for this land that we can review it after 5 and review it after 10 years. It's a great investment for our city, and I don't think anybody's objecting to that, and especially at this particular piece of land in particular, because it's built on a car park, and phases 1 and 2 are basically going on the Marina car park. And phase 3 will go on the Bishops Road car park. So it's, you know, we're not taking up green space. But if you were to believe what you read in the paper and whatever have you, and I honestly don't know what's in the embankment plan, I only know what I read in the paper, you would still be left with 55 acres of green space on the embankment, and across the parkway there's another 40 acres. But I think we do need to genuinely look for the people of Peterborough how we can get that embankment used. But tonight we're talking about the land that's being transferred to the university, and I hope we would go against that. We should have come to council a little earlier, but Anglia Rusty wanted to put a bit of investment into it so they could have their say, and we put our land in to have our say. And the combined authorities put its money where its mouth is, and also there's now a third one in Photocentric who are going to run the R&D centre. So, but that's all going to be stitched up by the 30th of October. So I would appreciate members would go ahead with the proposal before them tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Shaz Nawaz. Do you have a point?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point of personal explanation, just so we're clear. And Councillor Holditch, what I meant was we're contributing land to this particular joint venture partnership, and that land is in a prized area in the city centre. So they are contributing financial funds, cash. Cash can be replaced, land can't be replaced. If you're saying in 5 years' time or 7 years' time we can buy them out, that's fine. But the value of that land would have gone up, which was ours in the first place. So now we'll be paying more to buy back a certain share from Anglia Ruskin University. I just don't think that's a good idea. I'm not saying we shouldn't go into the joint venture, that's fine. What I'm saying is rather than contributing land, maybe the arrangement could be slightly different, and perhaps you'd want to think about that.
I think we're fully protected on the land, if I may reply to that, because it's been valued at currently about 4 million quid, and it will go. Our share will go up commensurate with the price of land going up. So the investment is probably better than putting it in the bank.
Thank you, councillors. I have no more speakers. So, Councillor Hiller, would you like to sum up, please?
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's all been said, to be fair, not least of which is what we're hoping to approve this evening is the recommendation that we will amend the capital strategy and asset management plan to take into account the proposed transfer of the land at value to the special purpose joint venture vehicle. That's what this is about. It's not about a master plan. It's not about gobbling up acres and acres and acres of the embankment. And I think it was mentioned just once, I think it was Councillor Holditch, but don't forget, members, the embankment is on both sides of the parkway. If one looks at it from a Google point of view, Google Earth, which is to see how much land there is the other side of the parkway, and to suggest that It's a given that the football stadium is going to go right on the embankment by the university. Is not a given. It has to come through the due planning process, and it may or may not be there. That's for us to determine at a future day. Councillor Sanford is absolutely right. Any master plan would, if we agreed, it would be contrary to the local plan, which takes precedence. So we can't do that. I prefer to term it, members, as a master vision, if you will, rather than a master plan, which rather sort of sets it in stone and is almost a predetermination. So I'm not sure that I'm particularly comfortable with that terminology. But that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members. And I hope you'll.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, we are now moving to voting on whether to agree the recommendation as amended in relation to the University of Peterborough project as set out in the additional information pack. If you can't see the vote for, against or abstain, can you please raise your blue hand and I will come to you individually and ask for your vote? Oh, it's been agreed. It's 100%. Thank you.
No, Rachel, sorry, that's not yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry, something's come on my screen different, Pippa.
I don't even have a blue band, Rachel. I've got a blue hand on a yellow hand.
Okay. You're voting which way, Councillor Hiller?
To approve.
Thank you.
To approve.
Thank you. If there's anybody else having any difficulties, could you please just raise your blue hand? Councillor Holditch?
I'm voting to approve.
Thank you. Councillor Fox, John Fox?
Yeah, the little thing came up on the screen, but as you said, it had all been agreed. I cancelled it.
Oh, sorry, it's something different came up on my screen. Which way are you voting, Councillor Fox?
For the amendment.
Thank you. There are many more, Dan.
There's two more I've got.
Two more. There's still two more people to vote. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Okay, I'll close the vote. Thank you. The result of the vote is 55 in favour. We have none against, no abstentions. Therefore, this recommendation has been agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 9C, Cabinet Recommendation, Budget Control Report. Agenda item 9C is in relation to the Budget Control Report. Information on this can be found in the agenda pack on page 79. Rachel will now open the debate.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Seaton, would you like to move the recommendation?
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst this item is entitled Budget Control Report, it actually relates to one specific aspect of what went to Cabinet. And that's a technical requirement that Council approve the capital environments contained within Appendix B. These are the funding of 62 to 68 Bridge Street, which of course is also will be supported by the New Towns Fund bid, and a contribution to a new access to the university development, and that was touched upon in the previous item, which require additional borrowing to be added to the existing capital programme. The actual decisions to spend the money are contained within separate notices and business cases, so I'm pleased to recommend the changes to full council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fitzgerald, will you second the recommendation and either speak now or reserve your right to speak later in debate?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to second this recommendation and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call upon any speakers, please? Councillor Joseph, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question about this, obviously vehement. As I understand it, you were looking for funding from the New Towns plus Arts Council and lottery funding. Doesn't seem to be confirmed that all of this has been confirmed as yet. So why are we committing funds to this project if we're not absolutely sure that we're going to get the other funding when we're already obviously in a precarious situation due to COVID? We're also, some of the suggestions are for office space, back office space, etc. We're all at a time when we're having issues renting out San Martin House, which we have space for, particularly with the new way of working that many people from, particularly in offices, are taking, where they're working from home. So office space is perhaps not as essential as it once was. Should we actually be looking at entering into this now? If we don't get the funding, what are the plans to make make up the money, the shortfall? And would it not be better to remit this decision until perhaps December, when we've got confirmation of the funding that you're hoping for to pay for this project? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Coles, please.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think similar to what Councillor Joseph is saying, we do have predicted financing of the new road into the university through the combined authority. And I'm sensitive to the questions that we're having to go through a technical process here to try to fit these particular changes into full council. One of the issues that I think I brought up before, which I'd like to bring up again, is we really should have a more active working group within the budget control working group, the budget group, that we haven't really had the level of commitment in the past where we can discuss these sort of things offline and to be able to understand across party what these issues are. And it's really a plea that we try to reinvigorate the budget working group, particularly with all of these issues with COVID coming into purview, which is really affecting the bottom line. If we could perhaps discuss these on a more regular basis, we might be able to cover some of these questions offline so that we are more equipped at full council to be able to fully understand what's going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Sanford, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this item does leave me with a bit of a concern, because what we normally get with the budget control report is we're normally asked to agree the content of the budget control report, and it's quite curious that this recommendation doesn't actually ask us to do that. And I think when you look in the report, you know, virtually every department apart from 3 is actually grossly overspent. Now there obviously are, you know, mitigating circumstances due to COVID, but we've also seen the cabinet has just published a set of budget proposals that they're putting to council in December, and my
Mr.
reading
Mayor, can I make a point of personal explanation, please?
Councillor Seaton.
And it's also a point of accuracy. Councillor Sanford has said that we agree at full council the budget control report. We don't. The budget control report is agreed at cabinet. It never comes to full council. As I said, this is just the capital environments that we need to bring to full council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think that is not my recollection. My recollection, I've been on this council quite a number of years, and we've had budget control reports at a number of council meetings. I think, you know, if you look at
Mr. Mayor, could we have a ruling from the legal officer? Because there's no point when something's inaccurate to keep repeating it.
Okay, well, can we also,
if you keep repeating it, Councillor Sanford, I will keep interrupting on a point of personal information and accuracy.
Mr. Mayor, cannot, the standing orders say that a member may make a point of personal explanation in respect of somebody misrepresenting something in a speech that he's previously made. Councillor Seaton hasn't spoken in this debate, so he can't raise a point of personal explanation.
I think Councillor Sanford said it was a statement of accuracy. I think Councillor Seaton has said what he needs to say in terms of this, and I think Councillor Sanford should just continue.
I will continue then. Okay. The Cabinet has just published budget proposals that take a projected budget deficit of £14 million and turn it into a budget deficit of 35 million. So I think that regardless of what the mitigating circumstances are, to say that this budget is under control, I think is a bit of is rather stretching a point. But I will go to the points specifically in this that are about the requirement of the £2 million for the access road. Now, you know, if we're asking, if the Cabinet is asking Council to agree to a requirement of £2 million for that, we should at least have been given some form of detailed report explaining what the requirement for that is. Now, I don't actually see that before us. You know, I can see there is a reference somewhere to the fact that it will provide an additional route for traffic into the city's centre. Well, you know, in the face of us facing a climate emergency, aren't we supposed to be trying to be discouraging car traffic from coming into the city centre? You know, the issue of the proposal in respect to Bridge Street, again, we don't really see much explanation of what the need for that is. So I do actually think that what Councillor Joseph suggested is a good idea, that, you know, why can't we defer this item to the December council meeting and have a proper report explaining what the need for these very significant transfers of funding actually is.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ash, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sort of coming in on point 8. With the colossal expense of building an access road from the Parkway for the university. We're told that it's got good transport link now, so I don't see why we need to go to the expense, particularly at a time when we are in trouble, largely through the COVID situation. But we need to spend that kind of money on something we're already saying has got good transport links. I do, to a certain extent, agree with Councillor Sanford, but it does seem a sort of rather a preposterous idea. Now, I mean, I'm not there at peak hours, but during most times of the day, it does seem that we already have adequate access to and from the Parkway. I mean, also got to remember that cities larger than us don't have the advantage of the river road down the city on our side. So I think we're pretty lucky there. So I don't really see that it's an essential requirement, particularly at a time when we are struggling for cash.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shaznawaz, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I find it interesting that this actual part's called budget control. What it should really be called is out of control. That would be more appropriate. I find Councillor Seaton's behaviour odd and strange. He's happy to put labels on other people, and yet when Councillor Nick Sanford was speaking, and he said, if you're going to continue stating inaccuracies, I'm going to continue interrupting you, which is odd. And what I find really strange is the label he gives other people is the label that's really given to all of those Tory donors who give hundreds of millions of pounds or have given over the last many years. But that's a conversation for a different day. What I would like to see Councillor Seaton doing really is going back to his Chancellor and saying, you promised nobody would be left behind and nobody would be out of pocket in terms of the expenditure on COVID. And yet we as a council are out of pocket. And he needs to make up those funds because that's what he promised publicly. As Councillor Sanford has pointed out, there's quite a few overspends on page 82, I believe it is. That could be due to COVID, and I'm sure Councillor Seaton or Councillor Fitzgerald will explain that subsequently. St Martin House, RC has covered that already. I would like to see some kind of a plan for that, for the new normal, in terms of if we can't rent it as office space, which can happen, and that's not anybody's fault here, by the way. Alternative plans. I think it's a sensible suggestion to say we should postpone this, because I'll tell you what really kind of troubles me, or at least doesn't make sense. We're talking about buying 6 Bridge Street, which is fine, but later on in this particular agenda, on page number 151, it says if we buy 62 to 68 Bridge Street, there will be some further funds approved for the conversion costs, subject to the Towns Fund. Now, as I understand it, the Towns Fund hasn't been approved. So we're going to buy a building. We're going to fund some of the conversion costs only if we get the Towns Fund. So if we don't get the Towns Fund, what's going to happen then? Are we not going to fund the conversion? Are we going to leave the building empty? Are we going to use it for something else, even though right now we're saying there's a different purpose for it? So there's a bit of an anomaly there, but I have no doubt Councillor Seaton will have a very sensible, professional, diligent and a polite response when he speaks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hall.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to raise a point of personal explanation, if I may.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Councillor.
Councillor Seaton accused me of leading the council in saying that, in the sense that I said that council has frequently in the past received budget control reports. I've just referred back to the council meeting on the 16th of October 2019, and I look at item number 17 on the agenda for that meeting is entitled Budget Control Report. So we have received them quite frequently in that.
Mr. Mayor, point of personal explanation.
Councillor Seaton.
They are on the agenda for executive questions. So questions on decisions made by Cabinet. They are not on the agenda for agreement by full council. This item is only about the 2 capital environments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hogg, please.
Councillor Seaton has criticised Councillor Sanford for calling this a budget control report. It is listed under the agenda as a budget control report. He is listed as the cabinet member responsible. If he wanted to change the subject of this item, then why did he not do so?
Point of personal explanation, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Seaton.
Thank you. The item that went to Cabinet was entitled Budget Control Report, which is why it has the same title now. But if Councillor Hogg reads the recommendations, he will see that relates to 2 specific items within that report, the capital environments. Okay. What I actually said at the very start of this debate, Councillor Sanford has said, I haven't spoken yet, I introduced this item. And what I said at the start is, whilst this item is entitled Budget Control Report, it actually relates to a technical requirement that Council approved the capital requirements contained within Appendix B. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hogg, do you wish to continue?
Yes, please. I agree with Councillor Noah's assessment that actually this is out of control. We've seen what little what little reserves that we have now been depleted. Government said that we were to spend money to cover the COVID-19 epidemic, and that they would basically cover those costs. And yet we see that they've only covered 70% of those costs, and 30% are still outstanding. And we're now in a dire situation, and we are in danger of going into the same kind of measures that has happened to Northamptonshire only just recently, because basically they can't balance the books. This is a serious matter, and you know, as I said, I just feel that it's not being controlled.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Holditch.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry this has turned into a bum fight, because it really makes a lot of sense for this city, these two items. You won't get planning permission for the university unless we spend this money, and that's our contribution to this money to get the transport in. You wouldn't expect a responsible authority to build a university without a proper access into it, would you? I mean, that's what that's about. And as far as purchase of the building, these opportunities only come round every so often, and there are deadlines on when you can say you're going to buy it. This, in my view, and I'm sure Marco would agree as a city centre person, we've got to alter the shape of our city centre for tomorrow, and this. It's not. You picked on office block in it. You want to see what the proposals are in the town bid, and I'm not going to go through them tonight because we'll be here all night. What the proposals for that building are absolutely amazing, and really will put this city on the map. But you can't lose these opportunities. You know, if you don't do it, you can't. You lose out. So I think you're trying to link something in the budget, and I have to say, no, there is no council in this land that isn't affected by the COVID situation. We had a stable budget, which was stable and would have been stable for as long as you could see if COVID hadn't come in its way. And you know, I've got confidence in this government. I know they said that you spend it, we'll give it that. I don't expect to get it all, but we will get enough. In my view, to give us a good chance of setting a proper, sustainable budget. And also, I think if you see this week, the government's made about 1.5 million available to councils, which we're going to get a fair share of. We don't know quite what it is yet, but it is a good lump of money. But please, come on, let's get on with the future of our city. And our future of our city is to get a university, get the right terms into it, and it has nothing to do with taking a road off the parkway. That's 25 million if you did that, and that was a bid to government to do that, to open up that land over that side. So come on, folks, let's get on with it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Farouk, please.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally support this proposal. From our small investment, this attracts a larger amount from other stakeholders. And, you know, not to forget, our capital investment is so crucial for us for our revenue income. We earn well over 70 million from our capital investments and from other incomes. Coming back to a couple of other points, Councillor Joseph and Councillor Nawaz mentioned about the office space at St. Martin House. We have already let out second floor at St. Martin House, and we haven't established a new normal. Once we have that, then we'll consider letting out of a normal, the ground level. So that's that. Councillor Hugg talks about depleting the reserves. Reserves are purely there for the revenue budget. That does capital investment does not come from reserves. Then Councillor Sanford said, quite a funny comment, we're taking the traffic into the city centre. No, it's totally the opposite. We're taking the traffic out of the city centre. Imagine when a university opens, you would normal circumstances drive through city centre to get to it. So if we have this, the people who are coming to university will come straight from the bypass and on to the university. And Councillor Nawaz talks about writing to the Chancellor and asking him to fund what he promised. Well, funny that we've been doing that, and we've done that 4 to 6 weeks ago. So your councillor was about 4 to 6 weeks behind us on this one. Maybe that's why you're in opposition.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but point of personal explanation. Councillor Farouk, I think, is misunderstanding the point. The Chancellor made it very clear that he will make up for every council in terms of the expenditure. Now, his leader has just said a few minutes ago that the Chancellor said, I paraphrase, but he said, you spend it, we'll give it. And then he goes on to say, but I don't think we'll get it all. So your leader, Councillor Farouk, is telling us that the Chancellor made a statement, and that statement is incorrect because he believes we're not going to get all the money. And that's what I'm saying to you is, we don't want some of it. We want you to go to your Chancellor and say, give us all the money. You've made a public promise. Now give it all. Have you done that? No, because if you have, where's the proof and where are the funds? Because the Conservatives always make promises, but they never deliver. We all know that. And the leader tonight has proved that, because he said, I don't think we're going to get it all. So the proof's here tonight.
Personal explanation, Mr. Mayor, we haven't gone in there half-hearted, or we haven't asked him for half the amount. We've asked him for all the total amount to keep and deliver of a sustainable budget. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Seresto, please.
Sorry to interrupt, Rachel, but just to warn members that we have 15 minutes left until the guillotine hits.
Councillor Seresto.
Hello, is that me?
Is you? Yes, please.
I did have my hand up. Yes, interesting debate. What is clear is that the only the Conservatives and a few other colleagues in council have the vision to understand that actually, if we stand in the headlights like scared rabbits just because we've got COVID around us, we not only will not survive the COVID, we won't survive afterwards either. And to sit there and say that we actually shouldn't look or debate or provide for an opportunity like the one in Bridge Street is a complete and total nonsense. And Shaz, you would never advise one of your customers to be so short-sighted. And it's a complete nonsense for anybody to say that. You all know, you live in this city, you say you're local councillors. Well, you all know that the complete shopping system in our city is out of balance. It's all in Queensgate and all around there. And unless this council takes the right precautions to try and rebalance the situation, we'll have that bottom end of the city die until the university is built. So to actually sit there and criticise the Conservative group for doing what is right and what is eminently good vision and good practice is a complete nonsense. I am really, really disappointed. Really disappointed. And, you know, the leader has very calmly explained to you why we're doing this. And actually, if you sit and think for 30 seconds, you'll understand that we're absolutely right. And the train only comes by once. You will never, ever, ever get another opportunity to acquire something like that on the Bridge Street in Peterborough with the sort of deal that we negotiated. You have got really, if you really want to support this city and if you really want this city to grow and thrive and be what we all want it to be, you have to support what is on the table today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Andrew Bond, please. Councillor Andrew Bond.
Hang on. Sorry, I was on mute.
It's all right.
I'd just like to ask a quick question, basically. I'd like to know why we're investing in retail property at a time where freeholds are plummeting. Surely if this city fund doesn't come through, we will be left with sort of like a white elephant kind of thing.
No way.
Thank you, Councillor. I have no more speakers. So Councillor Fitzgerald, would you like to exercise your right to speak?
I would indeed. I'll start with Andrew Bond's question. I think, Andrew, that you'll find that the purchase is subject to the Towns Fund coming through. So we wouldn't be purchasing it otherwise. I think you'll find that it's subject to contract basically, or something like that. I'm sure David might know a little more detail, but that's my understanding. You can rely on Labour. Marco spoke very passionately, as he always does, because he's a great champion for the city, as we all are, whichever political background we come from. But, Shaz, again, I'm sorry, scoring political points just for the sake of posturing for the Labour Party in council because this is public record, it's absolute nonsense. Because had you all bothered to actually read the papers in detail, you'll find all the answers that you're asking. And David, no doubt, will cover a load of the questions that Councillor Joseph asked, because they're already in the paper. We talk about where's the explanation, where's the business cases? They're all online. I'm looking at one now. It's actually in Appendix B as a link for the purchase of 62 to 68 Bridge Street. The officers went to a great deal of trouble to actually make the case why we're buying it. And again, Councillor Bond, it's not retail. It's about a cultural hub. It's about bringing that building to life and putting it, completely redeveloping it, as Marco says. So, why don't you bother reading these papers? And the fact is, the environments that are in that list there, Helpwaite School, there's a 2.8 million environment of that. There's the purchase of Bridge Street. There's the Towns Fund improvement. There's the Northminster multi-storey car park. And yes, there's 2 million for a contribution towards improving the access road to the site. And as John says, it's nothing to do with the parkway. Why haven't you read the papers? And if you talk about delaying it, Councillor, why? Why would we delay it? We need to do this now. Okay, we've made commitments. We've just approved the transfer of the land. All right. So the fact is, again, if you bother to read the papers, there is no further pressure on our capital budget. In actual fact, there's a 7.1 million underspend as reported in the papers. So if you bothered reading that, you would know, actually, we've got movement in the capital budget. It says in Appendix B, in Para 2, only 7.1 million of capital has been spent through the year because of COVID. There will be a significant slippage at the year end. On the TK Maxx building, we put down a deposit of 400,000, again, with an approved business case, which if you bother to read it, you'll understand why. And that's to be paid on the receipt of the Towns Fund monies. And that's just ask the officers, why do we come to meetings and you throw these things in and then go, no, it's nonsense. Read the papers properly. And if you don't understand the papers, ask David, or ask Pete Carpenter, or ask somebody. Don't sit there going, oh, the budget's out of control.
Councillor Fitzgerald, sorry.
I've done. Our budget is under control in all the elements that we have oversight of. We can't control COVID, and we're done.
Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Shaz Nawaz has his hand up. Thank you.
Wayne, I hear all the points you're making, but you've said the same thing and said you've backed up the
is there a point of order here, or is he just talking?
What's the point? What's he making? Point of information?
Councillors, thank you. I'm asking the question. Councillor Nawaz, is that a point of order?
Yes, because my point was that we can't afford to buy the building subject to the Towns funds.
It's not a point.
So is that a statement of accuracy or?
Statement of accuracy, that's right, statement of accuracy.
Well, that's what I said. I don't see what you're correcting. I said it's subject to contract on the Towns Fund.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Sanford, do you have a point?
Yeah, point of this, because Councillor Fitzgerald was actually going on and on about the fact that councillors were criticising this because we hadn't read the papers. Now, I'm looking at Appendix B, and I'm seeing there is a tiny hyperlink that gives you a link to the CMDN for the for one. I'm not seeing any detail.
What point of order is this, please, Councillor Sandford?
It's a point of accuracy that he's accusing us of not reading the papers. I can see it. I can see a hyperlink in Appendix B to the decision notice about Bridge Street, but I don't see any detailed business case for the £2 million to create an access road onto the park. It could be it's in there somewhere and I can't see it, but I'm looking for it and I can't see it.
Point of personal explanation. I didn't say they were all in that link, Councillor Sanford. I said that's a for example about the business case and the rationale for buying that property, because a speaker said they have seen no business cases or anything else for these things. If you check with officers, there will be business cases and a rationale set out for all that spending. Otherwise, Mr. Carpenter would not approve it. That's the point. I just made one reference.
On the point of personal explanation, then, can I say that I think the administration is holding council in contempt if they are expecting us to decide to spend £2 million of council funds without even giving us a
This
detailed.
isn't a point. Not a point. It's wasting time.
Yeah, they're all published documents, Councillor Sanford.
Members, we have 4 minutes left until the guillotine. Councillor Fitzgerald, could you continue to sum up, please, so we can move to the votes?
Sorry, Fiona. Councillor Murphy's got his hand up. Sorry.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a point of order. The point of order is I've just checked again. We've had 2 votes tonight. 54 people voted the first time. I don't see anybody leaving or coming in. And 55 voted the next time. So on this vote, can we be very, very careful that we get the vote arithmetic correct? Thank you.
I shall try and finish.
Come in.
If I may, I had more or less finished. The point I was saying is the documents are all published either as CMDNs or cabinet papers. They're all available. As to the business cases, I was referring to one business case that is a hyperlink in that particular thing. So look, we have the budget under control. We cannot legislate for COVID spending. It's an ongoing situation. We are doing our very best to press government. So to suggest the administration has not got its finger on the budget, Councillor Hogg, is completely untrue. This authority has always been prudent and financially well run. And whilst the Conservatives are in charge, it will remain that way. God forbid that any of you that are sitting on the sidelines throwing hand grenades in with no idea or suggestion how to help. Councillor Coles is right. Get involved in the budget, step up to the plate and stop whinging and moaning from the sidelines. We are doing a difficult job, but we're doing it very well in these circumstances, and I'll shut up there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Seaton, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, and thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The irony of having the earlier debate about the length of this meeting and councillors not reading the papers and raising a whole series of spurious points that this debate is not about. It's not lost on me at all. The irony that we have all just said we want the university, and then we have a series of councillors who say they don't want an access road to the university. They don't want to agree funding for an access road to the university. The irony of Councillor Nawaz insulting people, insulting Conservatives, insulting me, and then saying, oh, I expect I'll get a polite response from Councillor Seaton. You talked about the shortfall, Councillor Nawaz, where the government has said they will fund COVID. We're not at the end of the year yet. We don't know the extra funding that we will get from the government. We know there's an extra billion. How much of that will we get? That will reduce the shortfall. I'd just like to touch on Councillor Joseph's point. And Councillor Bond said about buying a retail building. Yeah, we're buying a retail building, but we're turning it into something else. So the retail market is not relevant to this purchase. This building was previously valued at £9 million. We had the opportunity to buy it for £4 million. So a very good deal. But the purchase was actually contained within a CMDN that has already been agreed and was not called in. So I'm not sure why we're having a debate about it tonight. The overall deal on that building is cost neutral. So where people say, oh, why are you spending the money? It's not actually in the long term going to cost the council anything. We believe the deal is cost neutral. And Councillor Coles was so right. We had a cross-party budget working group. Labour and the Liberal Democrats pulled out of that, so they no longer get the opportunity to discuss things like this in the detail
I'm
they
sorry
could
to
have had before.
interrupt, but it is now 9:15, and in accordance with standing orders, there will be no further debate. A vote will be taken on the remaining items on the agenda without further discussion. All motions, amendments and recommendations will be deemed formally moved and seconded, but I'm going to ask the Head of Constitutional Services to read out the recommendations, and then we will go straight to the vote. The only motions that may be moved are for a matter to be withdrawn, or for a matter to be delegated or referred to a relevant body or individual for decision or report.
Could I ask legal advice, please?
Councillor Fox?
Yeah, I have something very important, as several other people did, a motion to go forward. I need to debate it. Can I withdraw it now so it can be debated at the next full council?
Yes, Councillor Fox, you can do
Because
that.
this affects the
Rachel
residents
is
of
going
Warrington and
Rachel
also
will
Gunthorpe,
ask.
Aston and I, and Peacock.
Rachel will ask each mover of the motion whether they wish to continue and to move it tonight or whether they wish to withdraw it in turn. Rachel, over to you.
Sorry, point of order, Mr. Mayor. The legal officer should know that if he withdraws it, he can't then just resubmit it at the next meeting. That's he has to say
It
that he's
means
not.
he's not going to move it. I'm so sorry, Constance.
Yeah, I think we do
That's
need
the
to
right
get that
wording.
knowledge.
That's what I meant to say. Yes, you say you're not going to move it this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Okay, councillors, we are now voting on whether to agree recommendation set out on page 79 in relation to the budget control report. If you have difficulties in voting with the for, against or abstain, can you please raise your blue hand for me and I will call your name. Thank you. I think the vote's live.
Don't have a blue hand.
Your hand was raised, no?
I don't have a.
Councillor Holditch.
Yes, sorry, I can't vote. So I'm going for, please.
Lovely, thank you.
Can I vote for Rachel?
Councillor Hiller, yes.
For.
Thank you. So a few more people still to vote. Anybody having?
Councillor Ash, it looks like you're having trouble. Can you just confirm which way you're voting?
Is that against, Councillor Ash?
Yep, again.
Against. Thank you. I think that's everybody, is it? Dan?
Yeah, that'll be everyone.
Okay, the result of the vote is 30 in favour, 26 against, and there was 1 abstention. Therefore, this recommendation is agreed. Okay, councillors, we're now moving to vote on whether to agree the recommendation set out on page 105 in relation to the independent remuneration panel. Again, please raise your hand if you have problems. Councillor Hiller, I know you've not got a blue hand. Could you confirm which way you're voting?
For Rachel.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch.
For.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Ash again, Rachel. It looks like he's having trouble.
Councillor Ash.
Yeah, I'm pressing buttons. I think yeah, I'll go for that.
You're for? For? Is that for? Sorry, I can't hear you.
That's for.
Thank you.
There's just one person, Rachel, still to go.
Okay. Is anybody having problems? If not, I'll close the vote. Okay, the results of the vote is 54 in favour, 2 against, there are no abstentions, therefore this recommendation is agreed. We're now moving to vote on whether to agree the recommendation set out on page 119 in relation to the member officer protocol. Councillor Hiller?
For Rachel.
Councillor Holditch?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, I'm just saying there may be some confusion amongst councillors about how this has come across. There is a for information paper. People need to be focused on the recommendation. Hope that's helpful. I did talk about this with the Secretariat beforehand. There's a couple of more on this committee as well. We changed the gender to chair in a future report as well. Could those things be pointed out? That might help people vote.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Item, but I'm not sure that's a point of order at the moment. I think you're one ahead.
And even so, it's not relevant, surely.
Can we just continue with the voting, please, Rachel?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for a few others, Fiona. Thanks.
Rachel, do you want to ask Councillor Ash again?
Councillor, oh yes, sorry, he's not getting signed up. Councillor Ash, how are you voting?
Voting for.
4, thank you. Councillor Holditch, you have your hand raised.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's still 3 people to go, Rachel.
Okay. Okay. Nobody else is indicating that they're having problems, so I'm going to close the vote. The results of this vote are 39 in favour, 15 against, there were no abstentions, therefore this recommendation is agreed. Okay, we're now voting on whether to agree the recommendation set out in page 125 in relation to standing orders. Councillor Hiller?
For Rachel.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch?
For Rachel.
Thank you. Councillor Ash? Thank you, Councillor Ash. Still quite a few to vote. Anybody having problems? No, we're getting a few more through now, thank you.
It's just one missing, Rachel.
Just one missing. Anybody having problems? Okay, I'm closing the vote. Thank you, Dan. The results of the vote are 42 in favour, 14 against, and there were no abstentions. Therefore, this recommendation is agreed. Okay, we're now voting on whether to agree the recommendation set out in page 131 in relation to the gifts and hospitality policy. Councillor Hiller? Councillor Hiller?
For Rachel.
Thank you. Sorry, thanks. Councillor Holditch? Councillor Holditch?
Sorry. Paul, you keep muting me.
Councillor Ash.
That's why I've just done it. I was abstaining.
You're
We have
abstaining.
We
Thank
have
you.
everyone, Rachel.
Sorry?
We have everyone, Rachel.
Councillor Ash has already voted, has he?
He has, yes.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Okay, the results are in. That is 55 in favour, 1 against, and there was 1 abstention. Therefore, this recommendation is agreed. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the motions. Can I just confirm, Councillor Fox, that you will not be moving your motion this evening?
Sorry, you say I won't. Could you repeat that?
Are you not moving your motion this evening?
No, I'd rather it be discussed at a later date.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Wiggin, are you continuing to move your motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay. We are now voting on whether to agree the amendment to the motion as moved by Councillor Amjad Iqbal, which is set out in the additional information pack. Councillor Hiller.
Against.
Against. Councillor Holditch.
Against.
Councillor Ash.
Press 4.
You just press 4. Okay, thank you. Are we there, Dan?
There's just one, but yeah, with one person left. Yeah, we're there, Rachel.
We're there?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. The results of the votes are in. That's 29 in favour. That's 28 against, and there was no abstentions. Therefore, this additional amendment is defeated. Thank you. So we will now move to the vote.
Sorry, point of order. How, if there's 29 in favour of 28 against, how is it defeated?
Oh, sorry. Did I get it wrong, Dan? Sorry.
That's what you said, Rachel.
Rachel, yeah, it's 29 for and 28 against. Therefore, the amendment is approved.
Was approved. Sorry, councillors. It's been a long evening. Therefore, that amendment was approved. Thank you.
Can I just, may I just ask, Mr. Mayor? I thought there was only 55 of us this evening. I mean, am I right or am I wrong? How many people logged in to participate in this meeting? If it was 55, we've just had 2 extra votes. I don't know. I couldn't remember.
So we have got 57, Councillor Seaton.
Point of order, if I may. Just as explanation to Councillor Seresti, there were 55 when we started, and then 2 Labour members joined late.
Ooh.
Can I continue? Thank you very much. We are now voting whether to agree the motion as moved by Councillor Wiggin, as set out in the original agenda pack, as amended by Councillor Iqbal. Okay. Councillor Hiller.
Against, Rachel.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Farouk.
Sorry, just a question. Is Mr. Mayor doing his casting vote as well, or are you not able to tell that?
Don't need to do that.
No, we don't need to do that at the moment, Councillor Farouk. That's just if it's equal votes, and it hasn't been to yet. Mr. Mayor is voting in his own right. Okay.
That's it, Rachel.
Oh, there are we.
So it's 29 for and 28 against, Rachel.
So, okay, thank you. The results are in. That's 29 for, 28 against. There were no abstentions. Therefore, this motion is defeated. It is, is agreed.
No.
Sorry, agreed. It's been a long night.
It's the first one they've won. That's why, Rachel. You're just getting used to it.
Okay, we're now moving to vote on whether to agree the amendment.
First of many.
Are we moving the amendment, Councillor Wiggin, for Councillor Walsh's motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you. We're now moving to vote on whether to agree the amendment to the motion as moved by Councillor Wiggin, which is set out in the additional information pack. Councillor Hiller.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch.
Against.
Thank you.
That's all, Rachel.
Got them all?
Yeah.
Okay, the results are in. That is 27 for, 30 against, and there were no abstentions. Therefore, this amendment is defeated. Thank you.
Sense.
Got that
right.
Okay. Councillor Walsh, you are moving your original motion?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now voting on whether to agree the motion as moved by Councillor Walsh, as set out in the agenda pack. This is the original motion. Councillor Hiller.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch.
For.
Thank you.
That's everyone, Rachel.
Thank you, Dan. Results are in. That is 48 in favour, 9 against. There were no abstentions. Therefore, this motion has been agreed.
Are you sure?
Councillor Coles, are you moving your motion?
Thank you, Rachel. Yes, it's much of a cross-party issue anyway, so yes, please.
Okay, if it's cross-party, is everybody agreed on that one? If there's no blue hands, I will accept that as agreed. Thank you. I'll turn this off. Thank you. We'll take that as agreed. Thank you. Councillor Murphy, are you moving your motion?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now voting on whether to agree the motion as moved by Councillor Murphy as set out in the agenda pack. Councillor Hiller.
Against.
Councillor Holditch.
Against.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just while we're waiting for votes, could I just mention, because Councillor Hogg would have lost the vote, had 2 of our members not been sick. I'm saying it because they are quite seriously poorly. Members should send a card to both Kim Aitken and Janet Goodwin, who is very, very poorly, by the way. So we are 2 members short tonight.
There are still 2 to go, Rachel.
Councillor Joseph, are you having difficulty?
No, I just wanted to come back on that point. The Labour group did offer to send both cards and flowers and were told by Councillor Farouk that they weren't being accepted at the moment, but he did pass on our good wishes to Councillor Goodwin.
Indeed, I did. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there many more done?
Still 2, Rachel.
There's 2 more to vote. Is there anybody having difficulties, or I'll close the votes? Okay, Dan, close the vote. Thank you. Thank you. The results of the votes are 28 in favour, 26 against. There was 1 abstention. Therefore, this motion has been agreed. Okay, Councillor Stanford, are you moving your motion?
Yes, I would like to propose it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now voting on whether to agree the motion as moved by Councillor Stanford, as set out in the agenda pack in relation to business board meetings. Councillor Hiller?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch?
Against.
Thank you. You got everybody done?
There's just one left. I don't know if it's Councillor Ash.
Councillor Ash, have you voted?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the next one. I'm for that one.
You have voted, have you?
Yeah, I thought I had, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll close the vote then, Dan. Thank you. Thank you. The results of the motion are 28 for and 28 against. Okay, therefore we have to ask the Mayor for his casting vote on this motion, please. Mr. Mayor, which way would you be voting?
Against.
Against. Councillor Murphy?
Just a point of order, there are 57 people present, 56 voted. I think Councillor Ash was indicating he wanted to vote for it, not that he indicated he already voted. So can we double check one, please?
I heard him say for, so he did vote.
Can we confirm he's voted, Dan? Or?
Yeah, I did push for, I did say for.
Yeah, he was Councillor Ash said he pressed the for button, so it must be a councillor out there who has decided not to vote on this.
Okay, I'm going to close the vote then on this one. The results are 29 for, because the Mayor has put a casting vote, and 28 against. Therefore, this motion has been defeated. Thank you.
Sorry,
Rachel,
again.
I thought the Mayor voted against.
Rachel, I think you've misspoken there. I think the Mayor voted against it. So the
Oh.
motion is defeated. Sorry, I know
Correct.
it's the end of a long night, but I'll just correct that.
Okay, so the votes for that one then are 28 for, 29 against. Therefore, this motion has been defeated. Sorry about that.
Correct.
Okay, Councillor Stanford, are you moving your motion on climate change?
Yes, I would like to move it.
Okay, thank you. We're now
I think we got
voting.
agreement on this one.
Have we got agreement? Would anybody?
Yeah.
Everybody's saying yes to me by the looks of it. Thumbs up.
Yes,
So that motion has been agreed. Then thank you very much. Councillor Day, are you wishing to move your motion?
Yes, please. I'd like to move the motion. Thank you very much.
Do we have agreement?
Agreed.
Yeah, we agreed this one.
Agreed. Thank
Yeah.
you. That motion is agreed. Thank you. Councillor Hogg, do you wish to move your motion?
Yes, please.
Do we have agreement on Councillor Hogg's?
No.
No? Okay, let's go to the vote. We're now voting on whether to agree the motion moved by Councillor Hogg as set out in the agenda pack. Councillor Holditch?
Against.
Councillor Hiller?
Yeah, against, Rachel.
Thank you. Councillor Yazeen?
It's not letting me submit my vote.
Okay, what would you like? Which way would you like to vote?
For, please.
For, thank you very much. Councillor Ash, are you managing to vote okay?
Yeah, it should be. I did vote again.
Okay, thank you. We've still got a few people that haven't voted. Anybody having problems? No one having problems?
There's one more.
There's someone in the waiting room, Pippa, so I don't know whether they've dropped out of the meeting.
Yeah, it was Councillor Iqbal. I'll just let him in.
Okay.
Can I just raise a point of order, Mr. Mayor? Because how aren't the votes supposed to be public so people can see how people have actually voted? Because normally when we do this in the council chamber, it's displayed on the screen. But how can people see how people have voted using this?
Not hearing you, Fiona.
Sorry, I thought Pippa was going to answer. As far as I know, they're published after the event. They can't be seen as we do it, but you get the full breakdown, which will be published on the decision notice after the meeting finishes. Is that right, Pippa?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Have we got everybody down?
There's still one more, Rachel.
Okay. Is anybody having difficulties? Okay, that's it, I think, Dan.
That's it.
Okay. Okay, the votes are in. Thank you very much. That is 29 in favour. That is 28 against. There were no abstentions. Therefore, this motion has been agreed. Okay, and the final one, you'll be pleased to know, is the corporate. We are now voting whether to agree the recommendations by council as set out on page 213 in relation to the vice chair of the corporate parenting. Is this agreed? No?
Yes.
Is anybody in dissent of that?
Go to the vote, please, Rachel.
Go to the vote. Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Hiller.
Agreed.
Thank you. Councillor Holditch.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Yazin.
Abstaining, please.
Thank you. Still quite a few to vote.
There's just one left.
Oh, just one. Okay. Anybody having problems? Okay, close the vote down. Thank you. The results of the Corporate Parenting Committee Vice Chair are 39 in favour. There was none against, and there was 17 abstentions. Therefore, this is agreed. Thank you. We were pleased to know that is the last vote of the evening. I'll hand
Thank
back
God for that.
to Mr. Mayor.
Thank you all members. Thank you. That is the end of tonight.